How did you get to New York City?
The first time I ever got to New York City, I was working as a camp counselor in Connecticut. I'd never been, and I was such a musical theater nerd that I was like, I'm going to end up in New York City. Then I got debilitating stage fright and was like, never mind, but I still want to go there. And then I was a camp counselor at a sleepaway camp in Connecticut, and we had like one day off and we drove to New York City, drove to Times Square, got dim sum, turned around and left. So I was like, seems dirty. I'm sure I'll go back at some point. And then I didn't go back until after I graduated college. I met another guest that you've had on the podcast, Sean Patton, in Chicago. And he was sort of dividing his time between New York and LA. And I had finished up doing Teach for America in Chicago.
Wow.
I was going to move to England and do a master's program, and I had about like 4 months in between school ending in Chicago and school starting in England. And Sean and I had started dating, and he said, come live with me in New York for the summer. And so I went and moved in to his friend's place, who was living with his girlfriend, and was like, just take my one bedroom. So we lived in this like beautiful one bedroom in Fort Greene, and it was wild. I was getting over my stage fright. I was going to excuse me, a lot of open mics and getting really in my head and writing a lot of jokes and a lot of music, and then going to hang out with Sean, where he was like professionally doing comedy with all the people that were awesome and funny and didn't seem to struggle with stage fright at all. And I was I really didn't like New York at first. It was like too loud and dirty, and I didn't know what I was doing with my life, and I just thought it wasn't for me. And then I moved to the UK and I missed New York. So eventually, after I finished my master's, I moved back and I've been here ever since.
What did you miss when you were gone?
I missed, like, weirdly, I missed how loud it was. I like moved to Oxford in the UK, and it was eerily quiet at night. And it felt creepy to me. I think city people will understand. Like, if you're, especially as a woman, if you're walking alone and there's no one around, it's scary.
Yeah.
If you're walking in New York at night, it's fine. Someone else is on the block. You can scream. Someone's around. I missed how late things stayed open. I missed that there was always like a million things to do. It's really been, like, other than London, the only city that's ever like kept my attention for long enough. There's always somebody new to meet. There's always some cool show to go to. There's always something happening. And that just like wasn't the case in Oxford.
Yeah. You were talking about your stage fright. How bad was it? And I'd love to hear about what you remember when you first tried to kind of share what you wanted to share with the world and had some resistance. What happened?
I actually like didn't have stage fright at all until high school. I like loved performing as a kid. My mom was a choreographer. I was always dancing. I was always singing. I was like the top person in all these choirs and competitions and stuff. And then about the time that like you start to develop like self-awareness and like insecurity as like a high schooler.
For sure.
I started to like audition for things, and I really didn't like auditions. It wasn't like a fun group thing with all of your peers. For the most part. It's like you're standing in front of people that are like looking down at their papers or whatever at a desk, and they're judging you. And I just like really didn't like that. And I went to a music like magnet high school in Los Angeles called Hamilton, and they had a really good musical theater program. And I just like bombed the initial freshman audition. I just got so in my head, and my voice, like my body was shaking so much that my voice did not sound like my voice. And I got placed in like the lowest musical theater class. And eventually, like throughout high school, I still got bumped up to like all the top choirs and stuff. But it was always something where I didn't have to audition in an environment that felt really like judgy and unsafe. And it was when I was like singing in a large group rather than like being the soloist on stage. And so eventually I just went, okay, performing is not for me. All of my peers, I mean, I'm growing up in Los Angeles. Like a lot of my peers are like getting cast in things already, and they have agents, and like they didn't seem to have the same struggle with stage fright as I did. So I was like, cool, then performing and songwriting and like all the things I love doing are just for me then. And I'm going to go into art history and photography and like other forms of art that don't require me to be on a stage. And so I did that for all of college and out of college. And then finally, it was actually kudos to Sean. I started going to comedy nights a lot when I was studying abroad in London and a lot when I was living in Chicago. And I was teaching preschool. And I noticed that my students would pay a lot more attention if I was like playing this little ukulele in the classroom, or if I was funny. And like, they're 3 and 4 year olds, like they're kind of judgy, but like whatever, there's no stakes. So I like started kind of getting over like stage fright by just being goofy with my students. And then I was going to all these comedy shows at night, and I started writing down stories and jokes. And I've always been a songwriter, so I've been doing that in the background my whole life. And then I met Sean, and he heard a couple of my songs and stories, and he was like, "You have to get on stage." And I was like, that's not for me. I'm not gonna do that. But he knew about this mantra that I've had, which is, if something scares me, I have to do it. If there's no other reason other than it's scary, then I'm going to do it. And so he was like, sorry, you have to live by your mantra. I dare you. So I got up on stage at Gallery Cabaret in Chicago, still shaking like a leaf. My voice did not sound like mine. I think I got a couple like pity laughs. Like, it wasn't a great experience, but I got off stage and I was like empowered by the fact that I like conquered a fear and all of that adrenaline rush. And so I got up every single night that week at different open mics around Chicago. And I kept getting up in New York when we moved there. And then I went to Oxford to get my master's and really thought I was going to stay in art history. And my master's was in maritime archaeology. So I thought I was going to go this like really academic route. And then I found myself getting up on stage at Oxford. All my peers were spending all their time applying for grants. And I was like, I'm going to go to this open mic in a basement and tell a dick joke. And that's what I'm going to do. And then, I eventually moved back to New York, and like still sometimes I deal with stage fright. But it's really like exposure therapy that I did to myself. Yeah.
For those years, correct me if I'm wrong in this, but it sounds like there were years where you had basically come to the conclusion that you can't do this because it's too scary. And then eventually years later, you started the exposure therapy. You started actually putting yourself on stage. During that time where you were not performing, did you notice you felt shitty about that, or you had some, I don't know, sense that you weren't living the way you were supposed to, or did that not really register during those years?
I don't know if that registered, because I don't know if I still don't know if I'm living the way I'm supposed to.
True.
Like, it did feel like something was missing in some ways, because it was like I was circling around performing the whole time. I was like writing about art history and going to a lot of shows, and I was writing songs and like singing them to myself and sometimes sharing them with friends, and then they would perform those songs. And like, it just felt like I was trying to get as close to like art and performing as possible without taking the leap and doing it myself. So yeah, it took a lot of exposure therapy to take that leap, but it does feel, there's nothing like, performing, especially like alone on a stage and the bomb is on you. And if you kill, that's on you. Yeah.
The art history interest, was that always there? I mean, it sounds like you were very serious about pursuing this as a potential future.
Yeah, I had this great teacher, Dr. Code, in high school, who I took AP art history from, and he was just very funny and really interesting about teaching and art. And I've just always really latched onto history and stories and the way we preserve memories and narratives. And I think art is a really cool way to do that. I learned pretty quickly that like you can't really have a career in art history unless you have a lot of money, because you kind of have to do these like unpaid internships at museums for a very long time and work your way up in that world. But that, I don't think that's what I was trying to pursue with a degree in art history. I think I was still just like circling around art and history and narratives. And weirdly, I have like used that, like in my show, The Writing on the Stall, it's like all about bathroom stall graffiti. And there's a huge portion that's like the history of graffiti. And I use like a lot of the stuff that I was studying back then to sort of back up a lot of my claims, which is cool because I thought, lots of people don't use their degree at all. And somehow I have woven it into my show. So, yeah.
I don't know if there's anything else to say, but when you think back on your many years in the art history world, you just talked about stories and narrative and history. What else is interesting about that space that someone like myself, for example, who's never been in that world, might find fascinating or worth pursuing?
I don't know. I guess I think in general, art history and like the art world feels very like removed. Like I've always found there's something really interesting about like the like comedy is seen as sometimes like a less elevated art form, and like fine art and like painting is like untouchable in some way, but like neither are, like especially in this day and age when you have podcasts and you can talk to artists and like we have more information than we ever did before. What I think is so interesting is like, and this is why I've loved,
No worries.
why I've loved bathroom graffiti for so long is it's just this art form in which the person writing it doesn't necessarily think that they're an artist. They're just scribbling something on a wall, but we've done it since the beginning of like human evolution. They're like the oldest form of art is like cave paintings. And I think it's fascinating that like it's an art form that the art world looks down on or doesn't even consider art or considers vandalism. And yet it's like this imprint that people have left since the beginning of time. And sometimes it's just like blah, blah, blah was here. But we have blah, blah, blah was here from like Pompeii times. Yeah. We have stupid dick jokes from Pompeii times. Like humans are the same. We're the same. And we do the same things over and over and over again. And I find it endlessly fascinating that there's this like, I'm always fascinated by the juxtaposition of like high art and low art. And I love like when the two meet. Yeah.
I'd love to get back to your time returning to New York from Oxford. And what you did, I know you mentioned that you did a lot of exposure therapy. You were just, it sounds like taking a lot of reps, getting in front of people.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear about your trajectory when you returned to New York, I think in 2015 or so. What happened? What did you do to try to begin to spread your wings a little bit?
So I've always done music and comedy. And at that time I was like doing them both kind of separately. Like I was in a lot of bands and I was going to music open mics and I was going to a lot of stand-up mics. And there was also a period of time where now I primarily do musical comedy, but it's good. I promise it's good. And I love musical comedy and I'm really proud that I do it. But I feel like I still have to be like, but it's good because a lot of musical comedy is very bad. And so there was like a period of time where I was really putting my reps in where I left all the instruments at home and I had to prove to myself that I could just do stand-up. And then eventually I was like, oh, I'm just cutting off my arms. Now I sound like everybody else. But yeah, it was very interesting. I feel like I was actually talking to, I don't know if you know Isabel Hagen. I was talking to her last night. She is a great stand-up. She just released a special. She's been on The Tonight Show a bunch of times, but she's also like, she went to Juilliard and is a fantastic violist. And she's toured with Vampire Weekend and she's played for a lot of Broadway shows. So she's like been a part of a lot of my variety shows and she's recorded viola on a bunch of my albums. And we were talking about how we sometimes wish we could have just fully committed to one of the paths because maybe we would be better at it. And yet I think we're supposed to live in this Venn diagram of music and comedy. And for me also, like, there's a visual side to a lot of what I do artistically. And that I'm really happy to live in that niche, but it took a while to figure out. So like moving back to New York, I was just like really putting the pedal to the metal and going to like as many open mics a night as I could and getting booked on as many shows as I could. And then like putting together various bands and I started a bunch of stand-up showcase shows. And it really wasn't until a couple years in, it was 2017 that Sean went to Edinburgh Fringe, and I went there, and I went, oh, cool. This is where I can like find my voice and combine music and comedy and art in the way that I've been wanting to. There's so many people there doing just the most batshit crazy things. And that was actually when the first time where I was like, oh, I'm over my stage fright, was when I finally did Fringe myself for the first time. There's something about doing like 30 shows in a row where you're just like, cool, I can handle anything now.
Probably no substitute for that, I would imagine.
Yeah.
That must have been, though, a major life decision and transition out of academia. I mean, it's a very different world, obviously, a very different trajectory in life. Was that not only nerve-wracking, but just from like a practical financial perspective, how did you make that work? I assume it probably generated a lot of energy for you to like go because the pressure was on, but I'd love to hear about that, that decision.
Yeah, it was really scary, especially because I was like lucky that I got scholarships to college and didn't have student debt, but like I didn't have very much savings at all. So I lucked out in that I felt like with academia, it felt like I could return to it. So I didn't feel like I was like making this huge decision and leaving this world behind. Like Oxford wanted me to do a PhD. I knew I could go back to doing it in a couple of years. And I wanted to like give New York and performing and my relationship with Sean like a real shot. But I also knew I needed to like kind of like have some separation between my career and Sean's career because he's like sort of a couple classes above me. And I didn't want to feel like I got anything because of him. And I also like didn't expect him. I didn't move in with him right away when I moved to New York. And I like didn't expect him to support me. And so I've got a job for a curriculum design nonprofit. So it was like something that I got that made sense after doing Teach for America. It was like writing curriculum for various school programs. And that was in Dumbo, and I paid like $35,000 a year, something not really sustainable, but like enough that, you know, I could find a room in a house with a bunch of strangers and like pay for, I think my room was like $500 a month or something when I first started here. And I would wake up super early and ride my bike to Dumbo and work in this office. And then I would cry on my lunch break because I was so tired. And I thought an office was, I was like, okay, the classroom was not for me. Like I loved my students, but the life of a teacher was not for me. So I was like, maybe the office is for me. And I knew pretty quickly, like I knew with teaching, the office was not for me. I think I lasted at that job like 3 or 4 months. But it was like, it was a good, like I have a job and I've moved to New York and I can afford to sort of settle here a little bit. And after that, I just started picking up odd jobs. And I felt very lucky that I've always, like I taught myself web design and graphic design a long time ago. And so I started picking up freelance jobs. And one of the things that I've always been really good at is I see these performers that are fantastic at performing and really bad at the social media of it or the managing of their careers. Like when I met Sean, he didn't have a website. So I was like, I'm going to build you a website. And then other people were like, that website looks really good. Can you build me a website? So I started like designing event posters and social media posts and websites and like just kind of doing anything I could for other performers. And that like got me by for a pretty long time. I also dog sat for a really long time, which I really loved. And I wish I could still do now, but my cat hates dogs. What else did I do? God, I did so many different odd jobs. A lot of them were like remote before remote work was like really a thing, which I was really grateful for because I started like touring with Sean eventually. Sometimes I was just like, I'm like, he's on the road and I'm not going to see him. And so I'll hop in the car and like, I'll do a guest spot. And like sort of learn what this life is really like. And sometimes I would just like, he would go on the road and I would be kind of at home trying to make more friends in New York and build my way into this world. And eventually like it all kind of like stacked up together where I was I wasn't like actively seeking out freelance work. It was sort of coming to me, and I was like starting to feature for Sean and headline my own shows. But yeah, it was a long time coming, and probably the best job I had I didn't get it until 2023. Yeah. I worked as a graphic designer, fully remote for a university that I won't name, but I'm sure you can find it online. And it was wonderful for about a year and a half. It was really great. It was like my dream situation. I had steady income from a thing that I really like to do, but it was flexible enough that it didn't feel so draining. Like it didn't feel like it was taking time away from all the other things I wanted to do for a while. When I had this job, I also like brought my show Off-Broadway. That's when it first like really went viral and blew up. And I was really concerned about when I got this job, I was very clear that like I had this other life as well. Yeah. And they were like, oh, that's great. We love work-life balance here. And it seemed like a really good fit. And it really was. Like when I did the Off-Broadway run, my boss was like, hey, this is so cool. She came and saw the show.
Wow.
She said like, if you need any extensions on deadlines, just let me know as in advance as possible. She was super supportive. And then she left and she was like, hey, be careful. And I was like, oh no. So her boss became my boss and they never replaced her role. So it just got kind of weird and funky. And I started to hear through the pipelines that like they didn't like that I had this other life. And actually some of the higher ups were like stalking my Instagram to see when I was touring, which put me in a weird position because I was like, I'm asking ahead of time to take those days off, or I'm not because touring like is happening on the weekends, or I'm performing at night in New York, and why would that affect my work hours? And then that boss left, and then I like went through 3 different bosses, and eventually they told me that being a performer was a conflict of interest that I had never formally submitted. And when I asked how to formally submit it or how it was a conflict of interest, they couldn't answer any of my questions. And it all just sort of fell apart. And so now I'm back to the freelance life. But I don't know. It's interesting. I'm also in this moment where like, I don't really need to necessarily do it. I'm making enough from performing and music, but like I miss the steady paycheck too. Yeah. It's a weird balance. Yeah.
The Off-Broadway opportunity. I'd love to hear about how that happened. How did that come about?
Well, there's a lot of small theaters, small off-Broadway theaters in New York that like are looking to do kind of Fringe-esque shows. So I had been thinking about bringing shows I've done at Fringe to New York for a longer run. You could do them, at any venue, but for a longer run and for a more prestigious, like kind of off-Broadway thing. And then I directed my now husband's show at Soho Playhouse, which is known for like, they did Fleabag there and like The Net and a lot of shows that have really been successful at Fringes. And so I directed his show there in 2021 as the pandemic was ending. And so I built a relationship with the team there. And then I produced Gabe Malika's show there, Solo, that is a beautiful show. And then eventually I decided to take the leap and do my show. And part of that was like, I had a job. So like I finally could take this sort of like financial risk of doing an off-Broadway run and fund it myself and like see if it would work. And I felt very lucky. I worked really hard in the lead up to the show and I posted every single day. And I kept this like crazy spreadsheet of like when I was posting, what were the first 2 seconds of that video? What was the like likes to like views to likes ratio? I just like tracked everything so that I treated it like a science experiment so that my self-worth was not like getting tied in my head to the amount of views I was getting or anything. I was just like, let's throw a bunch of things at the wall. Okay, that's working. Let's keep doing that. And it really worked. Like I got millions and millions of views on my videos and people like turned up. Like I only did a 3-week run the first time and the first show was like 40 of my friends in a 172 theater. And it just slowly increased until the final weekend. It was like lines around the block, like people trying to get in. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. It was like I had big like Tony Award winning Broadway producers like being like, hey, I want to take this show to Broadway. And I had like TV development people being like, can you like, do you have an idea for building this? And I was like the most attention that I've ever had in my life. And it was wild because I was like, at that point, pretty sure that I was like happy and doing a design job and like would just do random shows on the side and self-fund it. And then it was like all of a sudden, wow, my career is like taking off. And I went from like, I think 11,000 followers on Instagram to like 150 and like 150,000 in a week.
In a week?
Yeah. Yeah. In like a week or two. And it was just wild. And it felt really cool too, because like sometimes a lot of people will like have a couple viral videos, but it doesn't translate into like ticket sales or like an audience. And mine really did like, and I really like my audience, like because of the kind of stuff I was putting out there and because of the show that I'd worked on for so long, like my audience is people of all ages and all backgrounds, but they're all like kind of like nerdy art history, comedy, music people. And like, I just really love them. And I've like been able to tour that show for 2 years. I just filmed the special. Yeah, it's been wild. It's been a crazy journey.
Tell me about the show. Tell me what it's about.
So the show is about bathroom stall graffiti. It's a bathroom stall graffiti musical. Another one. I know, right? Yeah, basically when I was studying art history, I started getting frustrated with how pretentious that world can be. Yeah. And I started photographing bathroom stall graffiti. And I found this one piece that is like the first lyric of the first song on the show. And it says, since writing on toilet walls is neither for critical acclaim nor financial reward, it is the purest form of art. Discuss. And it really just broke my brain in a cool way that I was like, oh, it's art for art's sake. It's art for sometimes not even art's sake. Sometimes they don't even, like the people writing on a stall don't consider themselves artists. And yeah, as I said before, it's just these like little snippets that people leave behind. And I was just really fascinated by who wrote that and why did they write that day and what's their story. And I have like huge archives of bathroom graffiti and huge archives that of photos I took myself. And now since the show has blown up, so many more that people have sent me. There have been days that I've gotten thousands of DMs of people sending me bathroom stall graffiti. It's wild. It's crazy. I love it. But yeah, I started turning the things that I found into the lyrics of songs. And the first song that I wrote is called The Purest Form of Art. And I bought a little foot pedal that is used by like orchestral musicians to turn their sheet music while they're playing. And I programmed it to change slides behind me on a projector. So while I'm playing, the bathroom graffiti that I'm singing that I've turned into lyrics is behind me. Yeah. And that first song did so well that I was like, hold on, I have this huge archive. I could write a whole musical. So there was 1 week where I categorized all of the photos I'd taken. So I put a bunch into like, okay, these are from lady stalls. These are from men's stalls. These are from unisex stalls. These are people responding to each other and having a conversation on a wall. These are sort of repeated tropes that we see over and over again. These are the sad poetic things that people write. These are the confessions that people have written. And I just like put them into folders. And then I was like, okay, let's see if we can write a song from every folder. So there's like 8 songs in the show. I think I wrote like 11 songs total. And the show is set in a dive bar bathroom. There's a toilet on stage, which is the most annoying prop. Every show, we go to Home Depot, we buy a toilet, we set the toilet up, we do the show, we return the toilet to Home Depot. Thank you, Home Depot. Return everything. But yeah, it's this show that is about bathroom graffiti, but it's also about the confessional things that we write when we can feel anonymous. It's about, I treat the women like we're all, or the audience like we're all women bonding in a bathroom, though like anyone is welcome. But it's just about like the bathroom being this kind of funny, safe space to like trauma dump and gossip and be vulnerable. And like in typical Edinburgh Fringe style show, there is a moment in which like I sort of reveal why we're stuck in the bathroom. And like, I won't go too into it because, spoilers, but it's basically just like, oh yeah, we're often hiding in a bathroom because something outside has been, triggering or socially anxiety, overwhelming, that kind of thing. And we all get to like bond together. There's a lot of audience interaction. Now that the songs have blown up, it's often becomes a sing-along. It's a very fun show and it's a very me show. And I'm so glad that the audiences have latched onto it because I never thought I could like use my art history degree and be playing guitar and be telling jokes and like weave it all together and make it work. But I did. Yay.
It's brilliant. I mean, it's using your exact talent stack together to make something sui generis that probably only you or someone like you could make.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny. I constantly get the comment, both comments, that someone is like, you're just retelling someone else's joke. Like how hacky, you just stole something that someone else wrote. And then I get the comment that is, we all know that you wrote this on the bathroom walls and like, stop trying to pretend that someone else wrote it. And I'm like, it can't be both. But it feels like a very me show. And it's interesting now because I'm like starting to write my second show and I'm taking a break from the bathroom style graffiti stuff, but I'm trying to figure out like what the next path forward is. And I don't know, it's how that show really helped me find my voice and my audience. Yeah.
It sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of what has happened subsequently started with you hacking Instagram.
A little bit,
in terms of getting the attention and the interest and the lines wrapping around the corner.
Yeah.
What worked? How did you do that?
Well, I got to thank Davey Zucker. He used to work for TikTok and he was like, he helped me make this spreadsheet in which I logged everything and treated it like a science experiment. But I still use it sometimes, and I use it for TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and Facebook. But like, it wasn't just my Instagram that blew up at that time. It was also my TikTok. And I feel very lucky that like now my YouTube is monetized because I was posting back then. And I don't know, it was like I needed to separate my self-worth from the likes and the comments and the stuff. And I needed to just, treat it like a science experiment. And so it was like, if a video didn't work, I was like, that's not something wrong with me. Actually, that's something wrong with the video. And I'm going to like change the first 2 seconds of it to something else and repost it. And I'm going to like spend a lot of time like editing and figuring out like what works for me and what attention spans are. And the funniest thing is it keeps changing. Like I'm doing this now for this album I'm trying to promote, and like stuff that I thought would work and has worked in the past isn't working anymore.
Wow.
But like it just means that I have to like adapt to the algorithms. And part of me like really hates it a lot of the time. Like part of me is like, I don't want to spend my time editing when I want to be writing new songs and getting up on stage more. But I also know that it's a tool and it's been a gift when it does work and people have been able to find me. And so I've just like learned to, I think part of it, treating it like a science experiment, is like just allowing myself to be like kind of cringe. Like, it's embarrassing to like care if people see you, but it's also like kind of the only way forward to build your audience unless you're still waiting for like the keys to the kingdom that some industry person is going to give you. And that doesn't really happen anymore. So, I've allowed myself to be cringe about it. I've treated it like a science experiment. And I've also been like, this should be fun. Like if I'm like not having fun doing it, it's not going to be fun to watch. So sometimes it's tedious. Like certainly editing is very tedious, but I don't know. It's cool when I've created a video and I go, I made that thing and like other people are going to see it now. And I don't know.
The things that worked, if there were lessons you got from the first go around with the spreadsheets and the science experiments of what worked then and what seems to be working now, how would you describe those two?
I don't really know. It's like hashtags are not really a thing anymore. Like geotagging sometimes works. Time of day sometimes matters, but not as much as it used to. But in general, it's like, you need to create more than you consume, for sure. But when you consume, it's like having that analytical lens of like, oh, cool, you're not just scrolling. Like, why did you like that video? Why did you keep watching it? What is that person doing? And then like I have a whole folder that's like called inspo of saved stuff on my Instagram and TikTok. And I'll just go back to it and be like, oh, right. Okay. I liked this video for a reason. And is it because like I had text overlaying my face right when the video started? Is it because of the caption? Is it because like I remember trying stuff where I was like, okay, if I just start with the bathroom style graffiti, people scroll away. But if I start with my face explaining like I made this song using just bathroom graffiti and like pointing up to that text, then it worked. I like needed to, sometimes you have to spoon feed people, you know, it's like, and people it does feel like what was working then and what's working now is like attention spans are even shorter. People are getting dumber. Like you really have to kind of like hit them over the head with like, what is this video and why should they watch it? Which is so dumb. But I don't know. Sometimes that works. It's also like what's frustrating to me now too is the lengths of videos were getting longer and longer and longer. Like I was posting a lot of stuff I did a song a day during the pandemic, which was precursor to the bathroom style graffiti stuff. So that's when I really started to learn how to like get a routine going and like get eyes on my stuff. But back then it was like how Twitter used to be 140 characters and then was longer and longer and longer. And like videos used to be like just a minute and then was longer, longer and longer. And now it's getting shorter. And I find that super frustrating because it's like if a video is longer than 3 minutes, Instagram says it's not going to share it with anyone that's not already following you, which sucks because like sometimes a song is 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Sometimes I've had clips like I had a 7-minute clip on Instagram go really viral and get like 2 million views. And people were like, most of the comments were like 7 minutes, but I was hooked the whole time.
Wow.
But now I couldn't post that because it wouldn't show that to anybody. So yeah, I don't know. The algorithm gods sometimes smile on you and sometimes you're just like, we're all trying to figure out what it's doing and what it's chasing. Yeah.
Do you try to think, speaking of identity, that the tediousness of that work, the editing, I'm sure this is not how you would ideally want to be spending your creative juices.
No.
But having a way to approach the necessary evil or the necessary component to your work by creating interesting Instagram and TikTok videos from your identity as an artist. Right. I mean, a lot of artists I think I've met, they find that so distasteful.
Yeah.
They probably also never had success from it to know like it actually could change your career in some meaningful way. But do you think about that in a certain way where it's like 10% of your energy goes to this, 20% of your energy goes to this, so that the 80% of your energy can grow?
Totally. Yeah. I just had a conversation with my husband about like how we need to actually build a team of people to take over editing some of the stuff, which I've never really wanted to do. And every time I've tried to pass it off to people, I'm just really specific in what I like and what I know will work. And they end up doing it wrong. And then I feel like I'm paying them to learn how to do it my way. And I'm just like, I'm going to do it myself. It'll be faster. But I've learned that I just need to train some people because it started to become that sometimes the editing is so tedious or takes up so much time that my sort of creative juices are spent doing that. And then I don't have energy to write. But actually the thing that's getting me the most is if I spend so much time editing, I am thinking about how things are going to be viewed so much that when I then am writing, I'm not writing from a place of like, I'm really like thrilled by this idea or excited about this. And I'm writing from a place of how is this going to do? And that I think is just not the right mindset and is really persnickety. And it's like why I've noticed now that I'm like earning money on YouTube, like if I just sort of like repost some of the same stuff in the same way that it'll make me money. And I'm like, oof, that's terrible. Like I don't want to just keep regurgitating the same thing. It's how people like really get stuck in niches and like can't get out of them. And I like need to clear my time away from social media and posting and editing and like hand that off to somebody else so that I can be writing from a place of like, I'm excited about this idea and not, I think you'll be excited about this idea.
To me, it's one of the great ironies of modern art and artists, modern artists, is the need to for most people, spend time thinking about this, how to hack the algorithm, how to grow an audience, with probably a deep internal sense that, like the caveman story you were telling earlier, there is a deep part of them that wants to do their thing for its own sake, not thinking about how other people are perceiving them. And that is a weird situation to be living in, I'm sure.
Totally. I mean, yeah, it really goes back to like bathroom graffiti in a way. It's like those artists who might not consider themselves artists will never see people reacting to what they've written. Like, it's not in a gallery. It's not on a stage in front of an audience. It might get painted over that day. That's not the point of the art. The point is not for the reception of it. And the point is not for financial rewards. And so I find that super fascinating. And I also I've been doing some like stuff involving like sound healing and psychedelic ceremony work for some years now. And that has also freed me up from like the ego and the need for like an audience reaction, because it's really different. It's like I am playing music to either play for me or because I'm underscoring someone else's like trippy psychedelic journey. Yeah. And that's important for them, but they're not paying attention to me. They're like, they're in a different universe. They're on a different plane. And like, I'm like underscoring their journey. And that has that work has been really freeing from the stuff I'm doing on stage, because it's a really different mindset around it. It's a really different drive. So, yeah. The
sweet spot, it sounds like, if you had to give an answer to this, of how to deal with the requirements of exposure, audience, social media, it would eventually be to train someone and have someone else do it so that you could free up your time to do what you love. Is that kind of how you're thinking about it at this point?
Yeah, but that's like, it's interesting. It's expensive. Like, I think about like John Marco Ceresi, who's doing my show on Monday. I don't know if you talked to him, but he's a great comic. And he was talking on a podcast recently about how it costs him like 20 grand a month to like keep his machine rolling. Now, granted, he has like millions and millions of subscribers on YouTube and all of his channels, but like, he was saying, I need to like be having my time be free to write so that I can create stuff to get on stage, to make it good enough to film, and then to post to keep the machine going. Yeah. And he wouldn't have time to write if he was the person filming and editing and subtitling and captioning and posting. You know, that stuff takes so much time. Yeah. So I don't think that's the only way to do it. And I do think, man, I'm fascinated by people. Like, Instagram has been serving me a lot of these kind of videos that I really love as someone in design, like that's either animation or like stop motion or like stuff that I know. And they say in the caption, like, this took 11 hours. You know, this took 48 hours. It's like, it's really tedious art stuff and editing stuff. And like, I love when people spend their time doing that. And I think that's so worth their while to build something with that level of detail. But there's also something really freeing about like, I'm just going to film something and like, I'm not going to let it be perfect. I'm just going to like, let the like auto captioning thing auto caption it, and I'm just going to post it and put it out there. And if things are wrong, that's fine. I don't know. It's like, I'm constantly trying to find the balance between how much effort I need to put into a thing before I share it, and letting things be imperfect, and like letting my time be more focused on creation rather than the process of sharing. Yeah.
Do you think it's conceivable that you could get to a point where your audience, which is at least online, it's already massive, that it's big enough that you don't necessarily need to spend, like, you have enough people who are in your corner that you don't have to continue to grow that anymore? Sort of like how people can get to a point where, for the rare individual, they have enough money where they don't need more money.
Yeah.
Or do you think about it like it's so competitive and people's attention spans are so short that you'll be forgotten if you don't stay on this hamster wheel?
Totally. I mean, it really depends on what kind of like person and performer you are and what audience you've cultivated, because there are people like James Acaster, who deleted all of his social media, or like Bo Burnham, who started off in early YouTube but doesn't really post anything and like creates something every 5 years. There are like there are artists that their audience is excited for when they're going to make new material, and they don't need to keep that hamster wheel kind of going. In fact, their audience appreciates that, like, they're going to go into their little like art dungeon solo thing and then come out and be like, look at this thing I made. But then there are people that I love, and I think, like John Marco and Taylor Tomlinson, and people who have a team running things in the background for them to like keep posting online and keep promoting shows and staying relevant. And like, I think that's important too. Like Josh Johnson, when I met him, he was still doing like open mics and occasional bar shows. And now he puts out a special every single week. And he's able to get up on stage and talk about current events. And when something happens, I go, I want to know what Josh Johnson has to say about this.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just really like finding a flow that works for you, that doesn't burn you out, and is the level that makes sense for you. But it's hard. I mean, yeah, I've been talking to a lot of friends that are just like, I want to quit social media. Like, this sucks. and it does. Yeah.
So what's next for you? I know you're working on something new. Are you building something new?
Oh my God, I'm spinning too many plates right now.
Okay.
I am in the edit of my special, which is, again, why I'm talking about editing so much, because it is all consuming and super tedious, but I'm editing that, and I still have to like get it mixed and color corrected and shopped around. And then I just released an album yesterday with my husband. We do musical comedy stuff together sometimes. So that album is out, and we're doing an album release show in New York and one in LA. And that's like 14 tracks, 11 songs. We released a couple singles ahead of time, but like we still want to keep trying to make the songs go viral. And so we're like putting together multiple videos per song. And then I'm recording an album that is not comedy at all. That's called Songs I Wrote for Other People's Weddings. And I was hoping to finish that before my own wedding, but I got married in October. And so now I have like a dual album called Songs I Wrote for My Own Wedding that I like need to, I have the drums recorded. I have the bass recorded. I have Isabel on viola recorded. I have piano, it's just like the recording process is so tedious. AJ, my husband, and I also have like an album of like sound healing ceremony songs we want to release. I have so many musicals I'm writing with friends. But the next thing in terms of like a solo show, I just decided this weekend that I'm going to return to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which is scary because I don't have a show ready, but it is a good place to like, by the end of the month, I will have a show. And I have like 5 musical comedy songs that aren't bathroom graffiti related, but they do have visual elements that are projected behind me. And I have an idea for a through line. And so now I have to spend the next couple months amidst all those other projects I just said, like working bits out on stage and doing some shows in which I'm sure I'm going to bomb and my stage fright will come back and things will not work, but that's the process. So yeah, I have to write a couple more songs for that show and make sure it's about 50 minutes to an hour and make sure it's like strong enough to hold people's attention at Edinburgh Fringe, which is a lot because people are oversaturated with shows there. But yeah, that's basically what's next.
Do you know what the next show is going to be about?
Yeah, I think it is about, so I have this theory. My brother and I have this theory that everybody in the world has a superpower. And by that, I mean, it's the thing that they're better at than anybody else in the world. But just because there's like 8 billion people, it's usually something really mundane. So like my brother's is pointing at things, and I have examples that I project behind me of like pictures of things that just look like a mountain, and then you point and that's like Hitler's face in the mountain. This is an example from the show. So he's the world's best pointer outer. And then my sister-in-law, hers is ordering the thing off the menu that the kitchen just ran out of. This happens every time. So like, I like this idea that everybody has this like weird superpower. But I also like, overall, the idea of the show is that it's very wholesome, which I love for a comedy show. But it's just that like, we live in this like really disconnected, kind of like angry, hateful world at times. And yet if we all just like played to our strengths and like celebrated our dumb, silly superpowers, and like used them to like make the world a better place and be like our own little superheroes, that like life would just be a little bit better. I want the audience to like walk away being like, what's my thing? And like, oh my God, I feel so much closer to the people around me. And like, what a wholesome show, which is funny because like, I love a really dark show as well. I love dark comedy, but yeah, that's what's been in my brain for a while. And I have some really fun, silly songs about that. And yeah.
Amazing. I always end these conversations by asking guests how they think about the word success. And I mean, you've had an incredible journey from a very different life path to now with some seemingly like incredible moments of success and growth. I wonder how the younger version of yourself that moved here, if she ever could have imagined the life you have now.
Yeah.
And I'd love to close by asking you how you think about that word, which is sort of circling around a lot of what we've been talking about. How do you think about the word success as it applies to your life, to your career?
Man, are you my therapist? My therapist has been talking to me about this. If I looked at myself like 10 years ago when I first moved to New York, I would be so impressed by where I'm at. Like how cool that like I don't have a real job right now.
Yeah.
Like I get to just like, I'm not even performing or touring that much right now. And I'm fine. I'm fine because I like get to have a recording studio in my basement and like a cool group of creative people around me in this community that I've built. And I get to just like make stuff and hopefully people like it most of the time. But it's funny, like my therapist was asking what success would look like when I hit the next decade, because I just had a birthday. She was talking about how the start of a decade always feels like cool, 40, 50, 60, new leaf. But the end of a decade is like, oh my God, I'm running out of time. Oh no, I was supposed to accomplish so much. So I turned 36 recently and I was like, oh, no. And she was like, but 40 seems cool though, right? And I was like, yeah, it does. It does seem cool. So she was asking what success would look like then. And I think I thought about it and I was like, I think I actually have it already, but I'm scared all the time. Like I just have anxiety about having enough money to survive and like having a stable enough career. I'm looking for like safety everywhere, but I'm like the only way to really find safety is to do what I did, is to exposure therapy, is to do the things that keep scaring you over and over again. So when I think about 40 and when I think about success, I look around and I go, I guess I'd like to keep having the wonderful community of creative, loving people that I have around me and keep continuing to expand that and build that. I'd love to like all the projects I was talking about, like success looks like they're out there already and I'm not still working on them. I'm sure I'm still working on more things, but like those albums are out already and people are enjoying them. And, I think it looks like a life where I have the freedom to follow a cool idea rather than, I don't know, getting stuck in, is it going to make me money or are people going to like it? And sort of freeing myself away from that idea and just like creating for creation's sake, more room for play. That is what success looks like to me. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.